Welcome to Wisconsin Shoe Guy. Here we do unboxing videos, we discuss general shoe knowledge, we do worth the price videos as shoe reviews, and we will do shoe battles, comparing shoe to shoe so that you can understand the differences. I also speak to experts in the field. So today we're going to talk about these October 10th OT01, or the October 10th Model 1. This is a split-toe derby that I have named, well, really, I ripped off the name The Silent Spectator from St. Crispin's, who actually coined the Silent Spectator from one of their designs. So not really fair for me to call it that, but I'm probably never going to get it out of my head. So apologies to all the folks at St. Crispin's. You just came up with a really great name, and that's the way I think of these shoes. The shoe itself is really nicely done with a hand-stitched apron and a reverse toe. And you can see that this is a beautiful Janus suede as the apron and tongue. It's fully lined with a beautiful veg tanned skin, and it does have metal eyelets in there. There, you can see them for every hole. Some of the high-end shoes have just one. Some of them have no metal eyelets. These happen to have them in every one. You can see they did a heel cap. You can also see, if you look carefully, that is a very, very thin layer here, which means that they skived this beautifully down. And then you can see I've done a little bit on the wax here using pure polish in order to darken up the toes and the heels, but I've got some work to do in order to bring it to a higher shine. Now, these are hand welted. October 10th is a hand welted shop. I bought these through Sons of Henry, which is the dealer in Europe for October 10th. And you can see there's a little bit of fudging. And it's actually not very much fudging, right? There's a little bit of fudging on the edge here, but mostly it's just the stitching. Okay. And this is a casual shoe, so you don't necessarily see it. And it's a 180-degree stitch along the sole here. And then this is a Japanese waist, so it's thinner here than it is here. Okay. And it's a very narrow waist. And that has a really nice sharp fiddleback as well. What you'll notice, what you'll see with a lot of makers, is they either cement the waist or they do a Blake stitch underneath, either along the edge or just in the middle there. So now this is, again, this has, you've noticed this on my yo soles and on both of my October 10ths, there's no nails on that heel pad, so they may actually just glue that down. But again, if you look here at the heel stack, that is very, very thin pieces of leather for that heel stack, which is good. I mean, that's a sign of a very high quality shoe. So this is on the Huang last, and overall, really, really nice. The Triumph tip that they did for me is perfectly flush. It's actually better quality than what I have on my Yosol or on my other October 10th, where it's not quite perfectly flush. So really nice. I put my my October 10th shoe trees in these. They didn't think that they would fit because they made the insole a little bit thicker, but I can't tell, and they fit perfectly, so I'm just gonna run with it. And very happy with these. The only thing that I would prefer is that most of the time on a shoe like this, you'll see that there's tension that's going underneath that's creating a pattern in this suede there. And here I'll bring over, this is my Yosol pair. You see how that is, and it has that little tension, that little groove that creates that little pie crust effect. That's not on here at all. And I was really, really hoping for that. That was really part of why I bought this shoe instead of going with a St. Crispin's or one of the others, because I wanted that effect, and they said that they would have it. Now you can kind of see it here a little bit, but it's pretty inconsistent, and so that was a little on the disappointing side. on what is otherwise a phenomenal shoe. So just really, really great all the way around, with that one notable exception. So when I look at the stitch density here and along here, this is very good, but this is also not like super, super high-end level, but it is good. And so very happy with the way they turned out overall. For 610 bucks, you really can't beat these shoes. They really are a great value. Now, October 10th, as I said before, they have the insole on them. So I'm gonna show you that. Now, on some shoes at this level, what you'll get is you'll get an insole that is hard, just a hard piece of leather, and it's a sock liner that goes all the way in through the bottom. Or you'll get just nothing, and the piece of leather that they actually use is the insole. This actually has a padded insole, okay? And that padded insole doesn't really feel like it makes it thicker because your foot just sinks right into the padding on it. So it's softer to walk on, but I don't feel like it fills the insole at all. Like if you put like in a Pedak or something like that, it'll actually provide a little bit more flex. And so these are a 10, and I wish I had gotten a 9.5. I actually asked them to make it a 9.5, and they weren't able to because I asked too late. So in any case, this is, you know, it's pretty well made, pretty happy with it. The only challenge that I have is that the facing here, it feels fine up here, but the facing here, the instep is just a little bit on the high side for me. So when we look at the shoe on the side here, you'll see that this is not asymmetrical. This level is really at the same as this level, and that's really obvious when you put the trees in. When you have an asymmetrical shoe, you're able to see a big difference on this side versus on that side. Now you can see a little difference here, but it's pretty small. If I grab a pair of Gaziano and Girlings, you can see here, it's pretty obvious. There's there, and then here, you know, that whole archway that was there is gone. So big difference there. So again, it's not a tier 1 shoe, and it doesn't look like a tier 1 shoe, but within tier 2, which is, you know, 500 to 850 bucks, this is a very, very strong example, and pretty good for what it is. So really happy with that, and hope you guys feel like that does it justice. If you have questions, comments, please let me know. Thanks. So now we're going to enter the comparison part of the review, and I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut and do a comparison that I did when I was doing the review of the Yosol. I compared it to the October 10th then. So I thought it would make sense to do that again. A couple of things that are a little bit more obvious. The longer I've had the shoes, the longer I look. If you look at the way that the stitching is done here, they actually raise up the combination of the two so that it looks very similar to what you see on a tier 3 shoe. Okay, and I have a pair right here. This is a tier 3. This is actually, this is a Sons of Henry. And you see how they just raise the lip up here and they do the stitching on the sides in order to do that. Well, here, they've raised it up in the same pattern, and then they did that hand stitching underneath that. That creates that really cool pattern, and it creates that lip up at the top. Now, you'll see that here on this one as well, but it doesn't look as well executed. This is a Meerman. Has a little bit of a dodgy little area in here where this has this beautiful pattern. This has that pattern, but it's just not quite as clean. Right? Now, this is Utah calf and this is hatch grain, so that can be a contributing factor, right? So I want to be clear about that, but I do think that that's important to note. So again, we're going to look at the apron here and how that looks and how this is raised up, right? You can see the stitching underneath it. compared to here, you have the stitching underneath it, but that edge is not as clearly visible. Now maybe that's because this is suede combined with the smooth calf. And this is, you know, done on a calfskin, right? It's French calfskin. It's a nice calfskin. It's a nice suede. But maybe because it's the mixed material, that didn't quite work the same way. But that is a notable difference, in my opinion, and I want to point that out. With the Meerman, which I showed before, you can see, again, the same stitching. Up here, the ridge not quite as strong. Now, again, this is a oilier leather, so that might be why. And I haven't polished this one nice and dark either, so that might be a contributing factor. So now, from a last perspective, these two are very similar. From a sole perspective, they're very similar as well. It's painted differently, and this has a spade sole, so the sides are out a little bit more. But other than that, very, very similar. Okay. So I'm going to say that these are both tier 2. As I said in my last video, I'm no longer going to do comparisons of tier 1s. I think that people find that distracting. So when I do tier 1s, I'm just going to do tier 1s. But then when we have, this is a tier 3, I showed the George before from Sons of Henry, which is a great example and a nice shoe. Has a beautiful sole, you know, no bevel, not really a waist that's on the same scale as these, but a really nice solid flat waist, and it is blind stitched. And there is some nice finishing on the outside as well. Really clean here. Okay. So somebody took a lot of care with that. This is an Allen Edmonds. Now this happens to be in shell cordovan. It's the Bradley. Has a very cool pie crust apron, which is very different than the others. Now there's no fudging on this. They consider this a casual shoe, so they don't do fudging. And the edge is also very smooth. Now, but then it has a standard sole with your standard Goodyear welted open channel, which is not to say that it's bad. It is a JR sole, so upgraded in many ways, but because it's shell cordovan, but it is not quite the same level of finishing and skill that they have in the hand welted varieties. So Goodyear welted, and the other three are all hand welted. Now the Sons of Henry, this is actually Goodyear welted as well. It just happens to be hand finished. So we look at the Meerman. You have a much thicker fudging on it. The sole or the edge is not as finely sanded, but it is very well done. Double sole, JR. And it, of course, this is a Goiser welt on it. Not really a Goiser welt, a Norvegese welt, a chain stitch Norvegese. You know, again, nicely executed. Utah calf, beautiful, beautiful shoe. But, you know, as hand welted design goes, I do prefer these. I feel like they have a lot more style to them. I mean, if you just look at the October 10th compared to the Meerman here, this, from a purely designed perspective, not construction, not anything else, from a purely a design perspective, that shoe looks like a more expensive shoe than this one, right? This one just looks a little bit chunky, a little bit more stated, I guess. But, and it is, right? This is, well, because this has the Norvegese stitch, because this is custom, because this is a double sole with JR, and it's in Utah calf. This was an expensive shoe, but it's still 100, 150 bucks less than the October 10th. And the October 10th is just a very good example of this design and the way that it's done. So definitely, in my point here is that the October 10th is definitely worth the price. It's worth the price that you pay for it. Is it like a Graziano and Girling? No. But is it a really, really good, solid example within the tier 2 shoe lines? And my answer is yes. So this is Wisconsin Shoe Guy. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think, and have a wonderful day.